This episode is brought to you by Real Agency. Hello and welcome back to Zero BS Estate Agency, the show that cuts through the noise and tells you what really works in estate agency today. I'm your host, John Savage, and in today's episode, I'm joined by Mark Heneghan, founder of Bespoke Estate Agents based in Reading. Now, Mark's got more than 25 years in the business and he's worked in every model, from high street corporate to hybrid disruptors like Purplebricks, but he saw the flaws in the system, right? Overvaluing, long contracts, broken promises. So he's ripped up the rule book and launched Bespoke Estate Agency around radical transparency, honest advice and zero ties in. Now, Mark's approach, no overpromising, no sugarcoating, just straight talking guidance and tailored marketing that actually sells homes. And in this episode, we talk about why truth beats tactics every time and how understanding your client's real motivation changes everything, and why most agents are focusing on the wrong things. Now, if you're an agent who wants to raise your game or a seller who's tired of the usual estate agency BS, this one is for you. So Mark, what is the one thing that truly maximizes the value of someone's home when they go to sell their property?
I'm a firm believer that it is what it is. You don't try and sugarcoat it. You sell the property for what the property is, good, bad, warts and all. If you price it and market it correctly based on that, you will always maximize the value. Because I see too many agents overcooking it, trying to sell it for something it isn't, particularly where you've got like extended homes and they're still a 3-bed, but they've converted a garage or they've added a 4th bedroom downstairs. So it's about setting the buyer's expectations before they've even come through the door, that this is what you're going to see, this is how much you're going to pay for it, and there's lots of other interest, and that will get the true value of the client's home, I feel.
But aren't you running the risk though, Mark, of telling the truth, not getting away with it, not winning an instruction because other agents are saying things that sound nice, and you're running the risk of actually not winning an instruction? So why would you still be honest?
Because A, it's the right thing to do, and B, ultimately, unless that other agent has got a magic wand, they're not going to be able to sell it. And we are in business to A, have brilliant, happy customers, and B, in business to earn commission at the end of our hard work. So there's no point listing a property that you're not going to earn money out of. And again, I always look at a seller's motivation opposed to what they want for the property. So I can have a very honest conversation and say, John, I think your house is worth 250,000. You say, that's fine, Mark, I hear that. Agent X, Y, Z have said to put it on at 300. I can say, I don't agree with them, but if that is the figure that you want to put it on at, taking into account all that I have said, now it will come down to the motivation, that if they are strongly motivated to sell and move, but they would like to try 300, I've got no problem doing that, because they know that I haven't told them that. And ultimately, they will listen to the market, they will end up moving. But if you've got a seller that has got a want of getting an unrealistic price, that's never going to happen, that's where you can make that decision of, well, you're not going to move. It's going to be a negative for me because all people are seeing is Mark couldn't sell that property. So I don't think I'm the agent for you in those circumstances. So it's judging everything on its own merit. And you might lose, you're going to lose instructions anyhow, whether you tell the truth or whether you lie, right? Because what most people want to hear is you tell them the figure that they've got in their head. Now, some people have a low expectation. So if you go, so Mr. Overvaluer has got an equal chance of losing that instruction by giving an optimistic price as he has of winning it, because no one knows what the figure is in someone's head. Well, you can gauge it in the what I call the pre-valuation chat. So again, I have a very structured valuation. The first thing we do, sit down, get to know each other. You can have a good 15, 20, 25 minutes chat before you go into the tour and the look around, and then the valuation. A lot of the time you can gauge their expectations from that. And if you're just there to win the business, then that's where you think, right, I need to turn the dial up or I need to turn the dial down. But if you're just there to tell them the whole truth, you then go through the valuation knowing that I'm going to come in low here. I need to manage their expectations down. And, you know, Adam Walker taught me very well, very early in my career, how to puncture people's expectations, where the first one you show them is much bigger, much better, where they can't compete with that, and you have to agree with it. And that was that. So you've set the chuck, you're not going to get that for it. You then go to the low one, you're much bigger, you're much better than this one, so we know we're definitely going to get more than that. And then you've kind of managed their expectations without being confrontational about it. But telling the truth is always the right thing to do.
Yeah, I suppose though, you say that, but in my experience, most of the industry isn't there to be honest. It's there to get big, long, fat contracts signed, to keep office doors open, to keep salaries paid, to keep someone's holiday that they promised their husband or promised their wife. And I often, so what you just said then, I love that, because it's, those expectations are not a point blank what I used to be like when I used to get like laughed out the door, which was, I'm really trying to fucking help you sell your house for maximum money, and yet you are giving it to these lunatics that have promised you stuff. That sort of information there, where you're talking about Adam Walker, the guy that told you, look, show them the biggest one, and then so they can see what actually that sold for versus then the smaller one and what that sold for. And you go, right, it's not me saying it, it's the market saying it. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's also a big difference when you're talking about truth. It's like you say, how you land it. But though, I'm so intrigued by pretty much everyone that I invite on this. But look, and I say this, right? I only invite people on the show that I know that are actually not just talking a good game, but delivering results. And so I've even invited people on that talk a good game, don't deliver results, openly tell me that they're overvaluing to keep their office doors open. And it's just one of those things. And I'm like, wow, could that ever be you? Could you ever do that?
What, go out and overvalue to keep your office doors open? The blunt answer is that you're not going to keep your office doors open by overvaluing to start with, because you're not going to end up generating income. I think the difficulty with estate agents is we are human beings and the market is open to interpretation. And you always do your best, but as a human, I make mistakes, I get it wrong. Sometimes I've genuinely told people a figure that I 100% truly believe that their property is worth, and you put it on the market and it doesn't sell. Now, equally, I've gone out and I've said X because I truly believe it's worth X. Another agent has said more and it's gone on and sold. Now, I would sit there quite easily after the valuation going, well, they've overvalued it, blah, 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 blah. But I got it wrong. I got it wrong where I said too low. I've got it wrong where I've said too high. But I don't think that you would go out and deliberately overvalue a property to try and keep the doors on your business open, because you're not going to end up generating income from that. Now, again, sometimes the temptation is there where you've got a property on a main road and you think, well, that's a great board, I don't want to lose it for that. But then it comes back to that cycle of what is the owner's expectations, because yes, it's great that you get the board, but that board needs to say sold for it to be advantageous to your business. If their motivation is they're only going to sell it if they get absolutely insane money, all it's going to do is have a negative impact on your business. So it's always looking long term,
Yeah.
at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
That's what I try to do.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm in the same camp as you. Where there was one particular property I remember that I said, "This is easy worth £1 million. This is easy worth £1 million. No, not even. There's not even a question, right? I've got all the comps. It's absolutely worth that amount of money." Another agent came into our office, lost his shit, right, and really had a pop at us for grossly overvaluing this house, right? And I was thinking, really? I got all the comps. What? Okay, all right. Guess what? He was right and I was wrong. What I didn't anticipate, that this massive garden that they had was on a big slope. So actually, it wasn't a massive garden at all. And that was the thing that meant it was worth 200 grand less than actually what I was saying it was worth. So yes, we can get it wrong, but that wasn't, I didn't do it like you say, because I was trying to win the instruction. I was like, I've got all the comps, but looking from a bird's eye view on a topographical map, looking down, not looking on the ground, looking outwards and actually thinking maybe that garden is a bit too steep. And it transpired that it was. But then there's been so many other occasions, though, to your point about looking at the long term, where one of my colleagues has gone out and I've done it again as well, where I've thinking to myself, maybe this is worth 650. Maybe this is worth 650. That's like, I don't know. I'm slightly unsure of myself. Let me check. And then when I've done my due diligence, I've gone, actually, that's not going to get more than 510. Shit. But still, though, had the integrity or enough integrity to call back and just say, guys, listen, I've done my due diligence. I'm thinking like a surveyor. I'm up turning every single stone to try to prove to myself that probably 650 is the right money. And there's every single stone I upturn is telling me the market is just nowhere near that level. And I would rather that than actually win and make myself ill trying to sell something I now know I can't sell. Do you know what I mean? But that is done. Again, I agree with you about wanting to earn money to make sure that you're greasing the wheels with the right stock, with the right type of seller. And I totally with you on that. But is it the only reason that the guide is actually to stay as close to what's real? Is it just that, or are you thinking the seller is going to find it very hard to buy something else if they're buying something else, that is, further up the chain? Are they already spending the money inside their head? Is it also maybe that you're thinking about reputation for yourself personally? And does the reputation, if that's the case, does actually mean more to you than the money?
It's a balance, isn't it? Right? Because you can't run a business without income. And yes, you always want to do the right thing by the client. And, it's all a conversation. And the whole ethos behind Bespoke is that it's a tailored approach to each individual client and customer. And it comes back to, right, John, your house is worth 250,000. Understand that, Mark, but I need to get 265. Otherwise, I'm not moving on. So I then am duty bound to do everything I possibly can to get you that £265,000, because otherwise you're not moving. And again, there's a big difference between a need and a greed, because some people will sit there and say, I need to get 265, otherwise I'm not moving. The reality is they can sell it 250, but they don't want to tell you that. So that's that. So again, it is really peeling back the onions and finding out, what are they doing? Why are they doing it? And that's the most important question in estate agency is why. Why is somebody doing what they're doing today? Why has somebody woken up on the 6th of March 2025 and decided it is the best time to be moving house? So that's a buyer or a seller. What's happened in their world for that trigger to come? And that's where you find out their true motivations, isn't it? And then you can work and help with that. And particularly from a buyer's side, if you know what their motivations are, how committed and serious they are as a buyer, because getting an AIPs and proof of deposit and all of those are absolutely brilliant. And it's like tenants getting all their references, but half an hour chat of really getting to know them as a person. You get to know how serious they are about this move, and can we work together? And that's buyers and sellers.
And so if you know a buyer's motivations, are you saying that because you know those, are you saying that you're able then to share those motivations with the seller, so the seller may know the buyer through pre-feedback before they've even been round to go and view the property and why they're actually looking at their home? Would you say that's like a huge benefit?
It's starting to paint a picture, because again, there's like a lot that we deal with, and the two biggies, emotions and finance, right? We all love our home, absolutely love it. It was the best house on the market, and that's why we bought it, right? And we've been in our house for X number of years because we love it, and we want to sell it to somebody that's really nice because we get on with our neighbours, etc. I think it is the main. You've got people that don't really care, and that's fine. So when you're dealing with the offer side, and I've got a perfect example of one where buy-to-let investor, lovely guy, I've dealt with him for years, and he's genuinely one of the nicest landlords that you will ever come across. Selling his buy-to-let investor, I've got a lovely couple, and again, they are truly gorgeous people, and they came in with a low offer, and I thought it was just them like lowballing, because it was quite a way off. So I said to Terry, right, I've got this offer. Hopefully it's a starting offer. Let me go back to them. And he's come back and he's given me a figure, and he said, right, if you don't start with that, don't even talk to me, Mark. And I was like, okay, no problem. Couldn't get it. They were still a few £1,000s under. And I said, right, I did listen to you, Terry. They're first time buyers. They're not playing games. They weren't trying to lowball you. This is their absolute everything in. This is the maximum they can afford. And he's like, are they? He said, are they nice? And I said, they're gorgeous. I said, they're first time buyers, put everything together, told them all the backstory, and there's a bit of a backstory to it. And he's like, do you know what? He said, 40% of that's going on capital gains. Let them have it. And that was because he knew who they were. And we put, and I didn't do it to try and get the deal tied up. It was just conversations with someone that you get on really well with. You just say, yeah, and the emotion was what got that deal over the line, rather than hardball negotiating.
So exactly that. A seller who was buying a place reached out to me and was just saying, look, my agent's not really performing. Can I just ask for some advice? I really want this house that agent, the same agent has. I want it. I really want it, right? But that agent is not allowing me inside the property. And I'm like, okay, why? And they said, because mine's not under offer. And I'm like, right, are they getting viewings in the house? And he's like, no, not really. And I was like, okay, cool. So, all right, fine. Bear with them. It's not been on the market for 2 weeks. So it's not the way I would do it. I would front load everything and make sure I'm getting like an open morning personally. It's not how they were operating. But I said to her, I said, you know the actual house. You want it, but there's a big blocker, and they're saying, rightly so, you've not sold, so you're not necessarily in a position to go and view, and they're not willing even to have a conversation with their clients when the market is not particularly that great. It's not buoyant, like everybody's falling all over themselves to go and buy something. Surely they would have a conversation to say, look, if I can get my other clients' property under offer, these guys would be perfect. Surely, no, none of those conversations. And I said to her, I said, right, do you know what you need to do? I'm going to curate a letter for you, right? Because I asked her a load of questions. I qualified her as a buyer. So when I'm doing, same as you, before a buyer's even going to see a property, in my world, they're buying it. And if they don't buy it, they will buy the second property I show them, right? And if they don't buy the second, that is because I don't have it. Yeah, but they will definitely sell through me. That's the sort of level of customer service I want buyers, or the trust to have in me, right? So I qualified her as a buyer, basically asking, like you said, about her why. Why that property? What is it that's attracted you to that property? And I just went through the entire conversation, and then I said, right, I'm now going to actually curate a letter for you. I'm going to compose a letter for you. I want you to print it off, and I want you to go and put it through that person's front door, that seller's front door. she came back to me and said, she said, "Oh my God, I did the viewing, not the agent. I had to do the viewing. Anyway, I think these buyers are going to take the house." That was the message. And then another message come back. "Yeah, they've offered. They've offered and they're in a great position and we've accepted." And I was like, "That's great." And she said, "But the problem is we're now in competition for the house that we want. And now I'm having to give everything I could possibly give, which was an extra 500 quid. That's all they had to give." And she said, "But all thanks to that blinking letter. For the same reasons you just said, right? You have qualified your buyers so well. You know absolutely everything about them. And whilst maybe that your seller didn't necessarily get what he said he originally wanted, but because you have qualified your buyer so well, you've been able to mold and shape them to become the perfect purchaser, not pulling on the heartstrings, but certainly telling the seller why. Because now they're not just a faceless individual that's just trying to lowball them. They are real human beings that just want to get on to the next chapter in their life."
Absolutely. And you know, we see it with best and finals, because everyone asks the question with best and finals, isn't it? "What have I got to offer, Mark? Give us a clue." Da, da, da. And again, it's very, very simple. It's like, you know, you pay the absolute maximum. You're happy. It is my standard line. You come up with the absolute maximum that you are happy to pay for it. And if you lost it for £1 or £2 or 500 or 1,000, you'd be kicking yourself. So don't allow that to happen. If you don't get it, in your mind, somebody else is paying too much for it. So you can't be unhappy, and you must be 100% happy with the figure that you're paying. Also, it doesn't hurt if you put in a few lines in your offer that will get put across to the owner of why you love their house and why you want to buy the house and why you think you're their perfect buyer. Because again, it all comes through, and you put those forward. And again, you always go with the best offer, which is not always the highest offer, but the emotion behind it does add a little bit more weight to that figure.
And that's why, Mark, when I've been watching your videos on TikTok, right? That's why I wanted you on this podcast. And that's why you are bespoke. Because when you're talking about best and finals, you are not creating bidding wars which are disgustingly horrible and don't help no one, and they're just nasty and they create all the wrong impression. You're creating a best and final, but equally as the agent, you're not telling anybody what they should do next. So because you're representing your client, which is actually the paymaster, the seller that's going to pay you a fee for the job that you're doing, you are their right hand. You are their representative. You are their mouthpiece, so to speak. And so by doing the way you do it, and me watching your videos was exactly the reason I'm like, I need to get this guy on my podcast, because it's just not just truth. Truth doesn't do what you do justice.
Yeah.
Experience, knowledge, know-how, seeing the punches coming, understanding consumer psychology, understanding behavioral psychology, understanding actually take a step backwards to take 2 steps forward. And I'm going to show you how to do it. Yeah. Or you could go down a traditional route. I could say things that sound nice, agree with everything you say, Mr. Seller, sign you up to a long contract. And then I hope that you actually reduce, or I have to tell you the market's not as good as what I thought it was. And please, desperate, trying to convince. But that's not what you do, is it?
It's not, no. And I think testament is since I've been operating on my own, I've had 2 sellers that have gone on with other agents. And neither of them sold, but my clients are just 14-day notice. So there's no lock-in from day one, because you obviously got the 14-day cancellation period, and it's just rolling. So literally, you can cancel with me anytime. You know, before you do that, tell me what you would like me to do better, or what any suggestions. But I can't do better than my best. So if it's not good enough, 14 days and off you go. And literally, I've only had 2 that have decided that they would try other agents. You know, obviously, in this market, everyone is getting absolutely hammered by the We got buyers, they've only sold X number of houses, we've sold, all of that. And it's absolutely fine because, as I say, it's just decent, honest, open. And I'm when I was at so my background, I got involved with Purplebricks, Boo Hiss at launch. But one of the things that really attracted me to it, and it ended up not being the company that well, I won't go down that route, but it was a complete transparency. So again, with my software, people can see everything that's going on. So they see their Rightmove reports, how many people have searched, how many people have clicked. Viewing feedback is direct, although people don't always leave it. But everything that's going on with somebody's house, they can see it transparently, warts and all. It is what it is. I don't control the market. I don't make the market. I translate the market. And between the two of us, we can make informed decisions on what we need to do to get your property sold. And that's where, again, the honesty from day one is just all the way through the journey, right? So if you lie in BS to start with, and as I say, we do get it wrong, we're humans. You stick your hands up and say, look, I did fall in love with your house, and perhaps we have gone a little bit too optimistic. Or again, the house down the road has just come down by 50,000. The house around the corner has just come down by 50. We need to react on that. That's not us, and it's not the market, but that's what's going on in your immediate area. We've got one or two choices. We ignore it, we don't sell, we react, we get sold, and we get moved. And because there is just that complete transparency, people just act and action on your advice because they can see it. You are just holding their hand. They've got all the information, all the facts, that they can make informed decisions, and ultimately it is their house.
Yeah,
they're adults, they're intelligent people, they can make an informed decision. I am just here as an advisor, and that's what I see. Yes, so again, it's like your nirvana as an estate agent is 5-star service and someone moved. The next one is 5-star service and they stay per. The worst thing you can do is move someone and they hate you because you've lied, you've cajoled, you've bullied, you signed them up to 26 weeks, and you've called them every 2 weeks, drop your price, until they give in. Yes, you've earned some money, but you haven't done the job. The unfortunate thing with estate agency is people move. So I think what we're up to now, 12, 14 years on average, might even be longer than that, because it's like quick, forever in your house. And then, so like the comeback just doesn't come, because that's how they can get away with it, because people aren't moving often enough. If it was something we did regular, like go on holiday, and you're doing it every year or twice, if you're lucky, twice a year, you would never go back to that same travel agent. They would go out of business so quickly. Estate agents can get away with doing it because people just don't move often enough to think, you know what, we're not going back to that, or I've learned there. It's a relatively new thing, the 26 weeks. It's been building up from 12. When I was a lad, it was 8 week sole agency or 10, and then it's gone to 12, 14, 16. And now we've got 6 months. 26 weeks, 6 months, half a year it's going to take me to sell your house, I think.
It's a piss take, is what it is. Because the agents, every single agent on the high street knows exactly it, unless they just started, of course. But most of them will know exactly what the pounds per square footage is for the good, the bad, the ugly. They would know exactly on that road. I know exactly what that is likely to sell for, or to within a couple of grand either side, right? It's just that I can almost sympathise with agents sometimes when you're pumping a load of money into a house, and then if that seller says, yeah, sorry about that, I'm off, bye. As opposed to, you know what I mean? And the agent's invested a load of money. But we all know Rightmove is going to take its fee anyway. And that's going to be a set fee. I know it's a joke. It keeps on going up, right? But that's going to be a set fee anyway. But I can sort of see it from their perspective, the agent's perspective, that is. But though, I need to ask you a question. Why is your contract 0 days? Of what benefit is that to you?
It's something that I decided. Well, I'll tell you the benefit it is to me is if I do get it wrong, Yeah, let's say I do get it wrong and the client is disgruntled with me and wants to go elsewhere. What is the benefit to me in a positive light of having an unhappy customer that I've got to have regular conversations with that are going to be difficult conversations with? Where is the benefit to either of us in that relationship? That there isn't one. I am a new-ish brand. I'm into my second year. So last year was the first year of trading in Reading. So I wanted no barriers to someone using and choosing my service. So, again, where you've got no social proof, yes, I've been an estate agent for 25 years in Reading and I've sold thousands of houses. And that's not an exaggeration, but not underneath my own brand. So you're sat there and it is trust me. Trust me, trust me, trust me. So I felt the easiest way to win that trust is if I don't deliver, you are free to go wherever you want to go, whenever you want to go, 14 days, and we're done. We're free. And as I've gone on and I've got more instructions, as I say, only 2 clients over the last sort of 14 months have decided that I'm not the agent for them and they've gone elsewhere and they haven't sold. I then never felt a need to change it because it's working. So that's why. Again, I have looked at the only thing, like, again, where it does hurt is you've done a good job, you sold it, they can't find or change your circumstance to take it off the market, where I paid out for, like, to start with, I was getting professionals to do everything. So the drone footage, like the videos, the photography, you were looking at big money there, £600-700 just on the marketing, stick right move on top of it. You were investing a lot of money, doing a great job, and then they were going off and saying thanks very much, and you lost your money. So the only thing I'm looking at is whether I ask clients to contribute towards the professional photography, because again, I am a firm advocate that the no sale, no fee, I don't think is a true and fair reflection on estate agency in the UK. I don't think we charge enough. And I think, again, when I was on a pay anyway model, my skill set didn't change. My values, my morals didn't change, right? I could not sleep in bed knowing that I had taken someone's money up front if I didn't have a really good chance of selling their property for them. And I still firmly believe that is the case of you pay me to do a job of work is the right thing to do, because we're the only job in the world that you do all of the work and potentially after 6 months you can end up with zero for your effort through nothing that you've done. I don't think is right. But again, until you've got that, you need one or two things. You either need a massive marketing budget, which like a lot of the online guys did to get there up front, or you need to have the social proof. Now, again, I am exploring where you can give people the option, your property, your fee. So you can choose pay X amount up front, X amount on completion. And again, I think that's probably a direction of travel that I'm going to look at going in, where they get a discounted fee if they pay up front. Because as I say, I'm still going to deliver the same level of service and do my best.
Absolutely. Mark, we've come to the end of time, man, and you've been fantastic. And I knew you would be, because your videos are amazing. I'm going to make sure that your handles are in the show notes. So thank you, mate. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on, John.
And that's it for today's episode of Zero BS Estate Agency. A big thanks to Mark from Bespoke Estate Agents for sharing his no-nonsense approach and showing us how honesty and integrity aren't just buzzwords. They are a better business model. If you want to learn more about Mark or how his agency helps people sell their homes with no tie-ins and total transparency, visit mybespokeagent.com. And if this episode gave you value, hit follow, leave a review, and share it with another agent who needs to hear this. Until next time, stay real, stay honest, and keep it zero BS.